Planning and Economic Development Committee to order. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
Mrs. Root,
Here.
Mr. Barnes,
Present.
Mrs. Burdick,
Here.
Mr. Curran, Mr. Dibble,
Here.
Mr. Healy,
Here.
Mrs. Hopkins,
Here.
Mr. Ricky,
Here.
Mr. Crandall. 8 members present, 1 absent.
Okay, the second item on our agenda today is the approval of the April 21st minutes, and I will entertain a motion for approval. Mr. Dibble makes that motion, and Mr. Ricky seconds it. Any further discussion on those minutes? If not, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. So the third item is Rita Selbeck Lynch, Employment and Training Director. Welcome, Rita. And she has sent us her monthly report. Rita, do you have anything you want to highlight?
It's been a little slow with people trying to find jobs. Our front door traffic is down a little bit, but we're keeping busy right now with the Summer Youth Employment Program. We're going through applications and working with businesses and see if they want to take summer youth. Our main concern is our customers that are being hacked by the Department of Labor, someone in the Department of Labor system. So there are so many unemployment insurance claims that are being made by others, and so we're helping people walk through that. So we have packets of information that we can give them out, what to do if you've been hacked, who to contact, what to do, and so that's been very helpful. They also have some problems with the ID Me. It's our new way of making sure that the Department of Labor knows that it's you. You have to have a phone that has data on it, and you have to have another device, and I think Terry's familiar with it. I think they're using it for a lot of things now in the state, and it's actually a pretty good security. So that's just been something new and different. We also have Mike Hillman, who's retiring. His last day at work will be Friday. He's been with the county since 1991, and so we're sad to see him leave. Any questions?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes, Gary.
Yes, Rita, the unemployed who are refusing to work due to the fact that their revenue is from unemployment is better than starting jobs in a lot of cases. How much of that are we seeing in Allegheny County?
We can't really tell because they don't keep numbers on how many employers are calling people back to work. But if you have a job and you ask me to come back to work and I say no, then the employer can let the Department of Labor know that they have work available to them.
Okay. Do they do they get cut off from their unemployment if they do that, or is it
I will check
just
into
a
the
paperwork thing? Well, there's another one.
All of our people or contacts at the Department of Labor are working on unemployment right now. So some are working on unemployment fraud, and some may be working on that. But I'll try to get some figures. Somebody must have them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any questions for Rita? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, next up is Keir Durham, Planning Director. He also has sent us his monthly report. Keir, anything you want to highlight?
Good afternoon, everybody. Few items on here I wanted to point out. At our Allegheny County Telecommunications Development Corp meeting last week, one of the things that was brought up was a program that the governor has put into place during the last budget round, where if somebody is considered low income, they theoretically should be able to get broadband for approximately $15 a month. The local last mile providers, or any last mile provider, was required to submit paperwork by last Friday to opt out of participating in this program and show that it would be an undue burden to them. The costs associated per customer with running a last mile operation, whether it's Spectrum or Armstrong or our little guys like Win-Win and Telstar and Southern Tier Wireless exceeds that $15 a month per customer. So our last mile providers notified us that this could be devastating to their ability to keep operating if this continues through and they're not given a break. They submitted, I hope they all got their paperwork in, but it's a program that could have big impacts across the board. So sort of stay tuned for that. And we don't know much more than that at this time. It kind of came out of nowhere back in April, and so could be very troublesome when depending on which statistics you look, in excess of 40% of the population might be considered low income by this. To cut 40% of the users down to $15 a month would be pretty severe. So wanted to let you know about that.
So, Keir, the governor's plan didn't have a way that would compensate the last mile provider for the
No.
difference in the costs,
No.
that they were just
That would've
going to
made
have to
sense.
eat that difference themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I could have totally understood it if, say, this was a reimbursement program with vouchers or something through social services or some other department, and that the person had to apply and the voucher would be given to them or the provider. That would have made sense to me, but this appears to not be that setup. This appears to be just, here's a new rate. We're also working with a lot of municipalities right now, as I noted last month. So we're doing a lot of night meetings. Town of Amity, Village of Belmont, we've met with them a few times in the past month. Town of Willing, the Town of Belfast, Town of Elmond, and the Village of Wellsville, all been active. We've also been meeting with them on some other items. My assistant director has been out talking to towns that want to consider ATV laws for night meetings too. So we're burning the midnight oil here. Tonight's meeting of the planning board, the town of Cuba sent us a solar project to add to that list that came in since I'd written this. Tourism was notified me last week, I think it was last week, that they're going to get I Love New York funds for 2021. That's the good news. The bad news is it only is for the back half of the year, and anything that was incurred in the first half doesn't look like it's applicable, at least from what we've been told so far. So we can't fix those things, but at least funding should come through at approximately half, maybe a little less, of what we had gotten allocated a year or so ago. So that should be in the $30,000 range. Mentioned that. The item that I have an MOE on in the packet is to apply for a grant for a hazard mitigation plan project. The hazard mitigation plan, you may recall, some of you, it's about 3,000 pages long, and we're supposed to update it every 5 years. Every town and village, as well as the colleges, the lake districts, and the railroads and others are all part of this process. And hazard mitigation is, the idea is not like when we have a massive flood and you apply for money to deal with that particular event. Every time there is one of those events, then there's a piece of the money that's allocated to think about things that have always been a bit of a problem and you could fix ahead of time, so that maybe when the next event comes along, it's not a problem that time. So a typical example would be you have a culvert that's undersized, and every time there's a gully washer, it backs up and it causes some issue to the neighboring properties. and you know that this is a problem, you know it's undersized, so it goes in the book. And then when this money from another natural disaster comes along, the town, the village, the county, whoever can apply for hazard mitigation money when it's not raining and take care of the business of putting in the right size culvert. So that's the gist of what a hazard mitigation plan does. The amount that's in the MOE is the maximum the state is allowing us to apply for. We do not expect to apply for that whole amount, but they haven't scheduled our meeting with them until June, early June, but it's due like June 11th to send in the letter of intent. So this is when this timed out. So we said, we'll write down the max. We're probably going to ask for a lot less than that.
Kier, do you want to explain a little bit about the county share and where you think that will come from?
The county share is not going to be cash. It would be in-kind service by the staff. So this is usually an 18-month to 24-month project. And so my expectation is we shouldn't have any problem meeting that match with all the work we expect to take by the planning staff and the fire service folks, emergency management folks. Between all of us, it should be very easy to meet this match.
Mr. Healy,
Yes, I'll move that.
do we have a second? Mrs. Hopkins seconds it. Any further discussion on this MOE? Yes?
Here this brings me back to 2016.
Judy, put your mic on. Thank you.
Sorry. Sorry, Kier. This brings my mind back to 2016 when there was a major gully washer fast, 6 inches, I think, in an hour and a half in certain parts of the county. And yet there was not enough damage to bring it to the state level of reimbursement for anything, anybody. So would this then, I remember discussions back then about if we were able to fix some of these things before it got so bad, it would alleviate problems in the future. Will this do that, this proposal that we're talking about?
Yeah, so there's hundreds of projects already in the current plan.
Yes.
And so say there's a hurricane that hits some part of New York State. It doesn't have to necessarily hit here. It just has to be some sort of an impact, and they allocate that money. The biggest issue we've had with getting that money is we don't have active grant writing in the county, so we're not chasing a lot of that money. So and the town isn't on top of it. We're not necessarily chasing it. So sometimes we have good proactive communities that can do that, but there's money going by right now that
So
could be done.
just to finish with that, though, are you saying that there still needs to be some sort of a natural disaster to be able to do this hazard mitigation, even though it doesn't touch us? But
Right.
we can't do it in fair weather like we're having now.
So for example, this particular pot of money is related to Hurricane Isaiah from years ago. So this is like the concept. So there's some sort of a event, and then a year or time later, they've set aside that money so that we can do projects related to this.
Mr. Healy?
Mr. Durham, and then we can also at times piggyback on with other areas to come up with, qualify for the conditions set forth in the program, and this can be over a protracted period of time sometimes too, isn't it? Correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, this MOE is for funding to go out to have the plan written,
Yes.
Yes.
Updated.
updated, and this
Yeah.
has to happen every 5 years?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And so it was last approved in 2018, and you might say, oh, it's not very long ago. Well, guess what? When you have to update a plan this big, it's going to take us more than a week. for sure.
If there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Carrier, do you have anything else for us
Nope,
from
that
you?
was the main thing.
Does anyone have any other questions for Mr. Durham while he's here? Okay, I guess not. Thank you. Next up was Gretchen Hanchett, Executive Director of the Greater Allegheny County Chamber. She is not going to join us today. She did send us her monthly report. If we have any questions, we can, I guess, send them to her, and she can send her answers back to us at the next meeting. So if we move on from there, the next up is Dr. Craig Clark, Economic Development and Industrial Development Agency. He also sent us his monthly report, and Craig, I'll let you do some highlights for us.
Sure, and obviously we'll answer any questions as well. As far as highlights, two on the front, actually 2 or 3 on the front page. The Angel Fund still has a project that we'll hopefully be announcing soon. We have a number of things to finish up that project. It'll have huge impact if we get this one project going. We'll have more in the future. The Wellsville Business Park is still busy being shown. We have 3 or 4 major potential tenants. Nothing closed at this time, but they've been busy showing it, and I've helped show it a couple times. And interestingly enough, Empire State Development has actually been putting out a lot of requests for proposals. They've had 3 or 4 recently from them, so the activity is picking up. Usually we got them from Invest Buffalo Niagara. So that's good news. The only bad news is they take time to generate any real people. But the good news is there is interest. Great Lakes Cheese, there is no update from last time, except for, as you know, we have a fact sheet out. We've had an op-ed, it was actually in the Buffalo News today, it's been in local papers, and we've gotten some kudos on the fact that we've kind of told the story on how this will impact the county, as well as all the employees and the dairy industry. And I think people are finally listening that it's a great project. We really didn't want to go through eminent domain, but it's a tool we had to use. And so I can't say anything else except we have filed all our paperwork on our side into the process. So hopefully sometime this summer we'll know what the output is and how that goes with any negotiations. And we're still hoping the negotiations don't happen, that obviously Great Lakes Cheese and the owner come to some agreement before then. That's the real goal, but we'll see how that goes. I'm not in that mix. I just know that that's ongoing. There's an offer on the table.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Thank you. I had an email I received from one of my constituents, and they weren't able to be here themselves, and they just wanted to know if you had any further comment about the eminent domain process and acquiring the property. In particular, I guess, due to the fact of some of the people have been speaking out against it. If there's anything else you had to...
No, I have nothing else. Obviously, you can relay back just what I said. All the paperwork from both parties has been filed with the court, and so it will be on the docket sometime this summer. And as far as that goes, I know Great Lakes Cheese and the owner have an offer on the table, but I don't know what status it's at.
All right, thank you.
Any questions on those 2 or 3 things? If not, the clean energy projects is interesting. We've, as Kira just noted, there is a project in Cuba that's been come forward to the IDA as well. I've been working with the town on that. I would guess that'll move forward as a project potentially sometime in June. And they're looking to do construction this year. That will be our 14th small project, which are 5 megawatts each. Don't know, I know there was an article not too long ago in the paper. The one thing you should realize is that's probably almost about $90 million worth of construction. So there will be some construction going on. It's not large, but in any one spot, but every site, it adds up to real people, real workers, and real activity. And that'll continue to grow. I know there's 3 or 4 other ones, potentially even in Cuba. Along with that, I think I've mentioned before a couple times there's a larger project in Burns that they've been working on. That company is now going through what they call a 94C, which was a replacement for Article 10, which basically means it's a state process for approval. Although the local towns are involved, it's really the state has to approve those projects. But there are now 2 more in the county. We all know, because they contacted us about the one in Alfred. That's another 100 megawatt project. And then a 3rd megawatt project is being proposed in Hume. It's just started to look at. So those are 300 megawatt projects. Each one is valued probably about $1 million per megawatt. So they're $100 million projects each. And so we'll have host agreements, as Jan is shaking her head, which will have some pretty high impact on those three communities. But those are not, we don't approve any projects, never have. Also, we have a discussion with other pilots, and that really comes down to us working with the host communities as well to make sure those are beneficial to everybody. So you're going to see a lot of solar panels. The only 2 that are done are in Burns and Rushford, small ones, but we have a lot of will be happening this summer. And the other probably 11 of them will be going on this summer. There's 3 larger ones will take a year or 2 for approval. So if you hear anything, there's going to be a lot of solar panels. There was an article. Any question on that? Those clean energy projects?
I got one.
Sure.
On that Cuba project,
Yep.
why are you considering a 25-year pilot?
It's actually to the benefit of the town. I've talked to Lee on that because, just so you know, all the solar projects, like the wind projects, the land continues to be fully taxed. In fact, if it's ag exemption, it loses its ag exemption. So the tax that you get on the property goes up. And the only thing that the pilot is on is the equipment. And by getting, most of them are 15-year, now we have a couple 25 and 30. It's the advantage the longer you have, because the longer you have a guaranteed payment from the company. Because obviously that means that they'll keep paying you for 25 years, or up to, we have one actually in 30 years up in here.
30, that just seems like a long time, so the county gets nothing out of that.
No, the county gets a share of that.
So,
The county, you remember, all the land continues to be completely taxed, so you get your share on that. And the pilot is shared between all parties, includes the county, the town, and the school district. And it's not a zero anytime, it's paying so much per megawatt for the whole time.
we get a breakdown sometime on that, who gets
Sure.
what? Just
Well, who gets what's based upon your taxing authority, you share in that part, but I can get you those numbers, yeah.
okay, because I just 25 years. I don't know if the solar panels will last 25 years, will they?
Yeah,
When
have
I
some
read
on,
that 20 to 25 years is a
the
life.
very first ones we put on the campus, I think were 15 to 20 years, and they're still producing. I mean, they do produce, they degrade some, but it's to your advantage, because then you're getting that full pilot, which actually goes up, escalating over the years, so that you continue to get money even if they degrade some. So that's why it's better for you to do a longer one than a shorter one, because if you do 15, they could come back and say, well, they're only producing X amount, I should not pay you as much. You see what I'm saying? So it's your advantage to actually escalate it every year, and they're going to get it over 25 years.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. But there'll be more of those popping up. We did get a nice article in the paper of microenterprise grant, and there'll be another article in there. Those grants that we gave out through the county worked with us on that. The IDA managed it, but it actually was a grant for the county. And we have given out those 6 grants between, in the average, about $30,000 each. And that's one of the few times that we actually have grants so people get it, so they don't have to pay it back. So it'll make a big impact with those 6 companies that are either getting larger or new startups. And that's the hard money to find. Usually you can find loan money, but not very infrequently can you get grant money. And it's been very easy to work with the county and our partner, Harry Zuckerman's group. Any questions on that? Hoping to get another round as well. That's about all I have as far as highlights.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, Gary?
Yes. Last night I came by Quickly's, and I was amazed. There must have been I don't think they had rooms for any more overnight truck parking.
Yes, I know.
And there was several vehicles in the gas bays and other vehicles. My bottom line is they are as quickly happy with the situation so far.
Yeah, I just talked to Ken the other day, and they're very happy. They knew it was a good location, but it's better than they even thought. And I think Dunkin' Donuts has made a big difference too. When you go there during the day at lunchtime, quite often you can't find a parking spot, you can't find a place to fuel, and the trucks are gone then. But yeah, in the evening there's trucks there as well. So the volume is higher than what he anticipated. Yes.
Very good.
But I think it made a difference because he did it right. You know, it's a really nice space.
Anything else for Dr. Clark? Mr. Healy?
Just a comment. I think it certainly makes a positive impact on anybody that traveler coming through our county that gets off the road there at the main intersection in the center of the county, and they see all the lights and a nice new facility there, and I think that's a positive impact that hopefully gives them a good impression of our county and maybe attracts some positive people to come here and do some positive things. Thank you.
I think it does. It's a nice gateway to the county, and I think a lot of people are stopping that wouldn't have stopped otherwise.
Speaking of Crossroads Hotel, I noticed you just mentioned that it's still being looked at, but
I've talked.
now that things
Go
are
ahead.
starting to open up a little bit, I'm hoping that we're pushing it.
We are pushing it. I just talked to the developer last week. I talk to him quite often, and I'm hoping that the money breaks. That's the real issue, is whether or not even does somebody run it, but the banks have been very hesitant on lending to such hotel operations. But we're hoping to get that going soon.
Thank you.
Anything else for Dr. Clark? If not, thank you, Craig.
Yep, thank you.
Do we have any old business for today? Do we have any new business for today? Do we have anything for the good of the order? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Mrs. Burdick makes the motion for adjournment. Mr. Barnes seconds it. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.